Hana Kim stood at the observation window of her engineering tower and watched the sky catch fire. Red streaks burned across the morning clouds as alien ships tore through the atmosphere of New Busan Colony. Each streak meant another ship entering their world. Another ship coming to destroy everything she had helped build. She pressed her hand against the cool glass and felt the building shake. The first wave of enemy fighters was already screaming overhead. Their engines left trails of purple smoke that made the air smell like burning metal. "Hana, get to the evacuation center now." Director Park's voice crackled through her communication device. "The transport ships are leaving in 20 minutes. "I cannot leave the atmospheric processors," she said into the device. "Without me, the system will fail in 3 days. Everyone who stays behind will suffocate. Nobody is staying behind. That is an order." Hana looked down at the massive machines below her tower. The atmospheric processors hummed with steady power. They had been running for 8 years since the colony started. They turned the poisonous air of this world into something humans could breathe. They were her life's work. "Director Park, listen to me," she said. "These machines need constant monitoring. If they shut down, the atmosphere will return to its natural state. The toxic gases will kill any humans left on the surface." Through the window, she saw colonists running toward the landing pads. Families carried children and bags, full of their most important things. Some looked back at their homes with tears in their eyes. They had worked so hard to build this place. The communication device buzzed again. This time it was her brother Tae. His voice was tight with worry. "Sister, my fighter squadron is covering the evacuation. You need to get on a transport ship right now." "Tae, I am staying." "No, I will not leave you here to die. You have to protect the evacuation ships. That is your job. This is mine." She could hear explosions in the background of his transmission. The battle was getting worse. The colony's small defense force was trying to hold back an entire alien fleet. They did not have much time. "Hana, please," Tai said. "Come with us. We can rebuild somewhere else." "Where? How many colonies have the Vortani already taken? 15? 20? We keep running and they keep following. Someone has to make a stand." The truth was harder than that. Hana knew the atmospheric processors were too valuable to abandon. If the Vortani captured them working, they could study human engineering. They could learn how humans terraformed worlds. That knowledge would help them conquer more human colonies faster. She walked to her control station and began entering shutdown codes for the non-essential systems. She would keep only the basic life support running. That would give her more time before the backup power ran out. "Hana, this is Director Park. Final boarding call. The last transport leaves in 5 minutes. She looked out the window again. The colonists were almost all loaded onto the big transport ships. Some of the ships were already lifting off, rising slowly into the dangerous sky. Vortani fighters swooped around them like angry insects. One transport ship exploded in a ball of orange fire. Hana watched the pieces fall like burning rain. Those were her neighbors, people she had shared meals with, people who had helped her install the atmospheric processors. "I am not coming," she said into the communication device. She turned off the device and threw it on her desk. She did not want to hear any more arguments. Her decision was made. The engineering complex was built to survive almost anything. The walls were 3 meters thick and made of reinforced concrete. The power generators were buried deep underground. She had enough food for a week and water for longer than that. But oxygen was the problem. The complex had its own air recycling system, but it was designed for a full crew of 12 people. With just her inside, it would last longer. Maybe 3 days. Maybe 4 if she was careful. She walked through the empty hallways of the complex. Her footsteps echoed strangely. She had never been alone here before. Usually the building was full of engineers and technicians working around the clock. From the communication room, she could hear radio traffic from the battle above. Her brother's squadron was fighting hard to protect the evacuation ships. The Vortani had twice as many fighters, but Tae and his pilots knew the local area better. Red Squadron, break left. Enemy fighters coming from the mountains. "I see them. Red leader. Engaging now." Transport 7, you have clear sky ahead. Maintain current heading. Hana sat down at the main control panel and checked all the atmospheric processor readings. Everything was running normally. The machines were converting thousands of cubic meters of air every minute. The whole colony depended on them. She thought about the first day she had arrived on New Busan. The air had been so thin and poisonous that everyone had to wear breathing masks outside. She had been part of the team that designed and built these processors. Watching the air quality numbers slowly improve over the years had been the proudest achievement of her life. The building shook again as something large exploded nearby. Through the window she could see Vortani ground troops moving through the colony streets. Their armor was dark gray, and they moved in perfect formation like machines. The last transport ship was climbing toward the sky now. It was carrying Director Park and the final group of colonists. Tay's fighters were forming up around it to protect it during the dangerous climb through the atmosphere. "Good luck, brother," she whispered. She watched until the ship and its escorts disappeared into the clouds. Then she was truly alone. The Vortani soldiers were getting closer to her building. She could see them setting up equipment near the main atmospheric processor. They probably wanted to study it before they destroyed it. Hana sealed the blast doors that led into the engineering complex. The automatic defense systems were still active. Anyone who tried to break in would face laser barriers and automated guns. She had time now. Time to think and plan. The human rescue fleet was at least 3 days away. Maybe longer. She just had to keep the processors running until then. She made herself a cup of tea and sat down to wait. Outside, the sky continued to burn. Hana woke to the sound of metal crashing against metal. She had fallen asleep at her control station after watching the processors run through the night. The morning light coming through the windows was different now. The Vortani ships had changed something in the upper atmosphere. Everything looked slightly orange. She checked her watch. 18 hours had passed since the evacuation. Her oxygen levels were still good, but she could feel the air getting a little thicker. The recycling system was working harder than normal. The Conti crashing sound came again. It was not inside her building. It was coming from outside near the main processor unit. Hana walked to the observation window and looked down. A Vortani assault craft had crashed into the side of the processor housing. The small ship was crumpled like a broken toy. Smoke was rising from its engines. She grabbed her binoculars and focused on the wreckage. The cockpit was partially open. She could see movement inside. Someone was still alive in there. Her first thought was to leave whoever it was to die. This was the enemy. They had come to destroy her world and kill her people. They deserved whatever happened to them. But as she watched, she saw an arm reach out of the cockpit. The figure was struggling to get free from the crashed ship. There was something desperate about the movement that made her keep watching. The figure finally pulled itself out of the wreckage. It was a Vortani soldier, but smaller than the ones she had seen in the colony streets. The alien stumbled away from the burning ship and then collapsed on the ground. Hana watched through her binoculars as the soldier tried to stand up several times. Each time, it fell back down. Something was wrong with its breathing equipment. She could see tubes and wires hanging loose from its helmet. The Vortani could not breathe human atmosphere. Everyone knew that. Their lungs needed a different mixture of gases. Without working breathing equipment, the soldier would die in minutes. She lowered her binoculars and stepped back from the window. This was not her problem. The enemy soldier could die out there and it would be one less threat to worry about. But she found herself looking again. The soldier was crawling now, trying to reach the processor building. Maybe it thought there would be help inside. Maybe it was just looking for shelter. Hana had spent 8 years learning how breathing systems worked. She understood the biology of different species because terraforming required that knowledge. Looking at the broken equipment on the soldier, she could probably figure out how to fix it. The question was whether she should. She made herself a cup of coffee and sat down to think. The logical choice was obvious. This soldier was part of an invasion force. It had come here to kill humans and destroy human colonies. Helping it would be stupid and dangerous. but the soldier looked young. Something about the way it moved reminded her of Tay when he was hurt. When they were children, Tay had crashed his bicycle and broken his arm. He had crawled toward their house the same way this soldier was crawling toward the building. She watched the soldier stop crawling and lie still on the ground. Its breathing equipment was making strange noises that she could hear even through the thick walls. The sounds were getting weaker. Hana put down her coffee cup and walked to the equipment locker. She pulled out an emergency breathing mask and a portable oxygen tank. She also grabbed her toolkit and a medical scanner. The blast doors had an emergency exit that would let her go outside for short periods. She put on her own breathing equipment and checked the seals. The air outside was safe for humans, but she wanted to be careful. She opened the emergency exit and stepped out into the orange morning light. The crashed ship was still smoking. Pieces of metal were scattered everywhere. The soldier was lying about 20 meters away from her building. As she got closer, she could see that the soldier was definitely young, maybe even younger than Tay. Its armor was different from the other Vortani soldiers too. Less decorated, probably a low-ranking pilot. The soldier heard her approaching and tried to turn its head. Behind the damaged helmet, she could see large yellow eyes filled with fear and confusion. It said something in its own language. The words sounded like questions. Hana kneeled down next to the soldier and examined its breathing equipment. The crash had torn several tubes loose and cracked the main filter unit. But the basic system was still working. She could fix this. The soldier watched her with those big yellow eyes as she worked. It seemed to understand that she was trying to help, but it also looked ready to fight if necessary. Its hand was resting near a weapon on its belt. "I am not going to hurt you," Hana said. Even though she knew it could not understand her words, she used her tools to reconnect the broken tubes and seal the cracks in the filter unit. The soldier's breathing became easier almost immediately. The strange noises from its equipment stopped. When she finished the repairs, the soldier sat up slowly. It looked at her with what might have been surprise. It said something else in its language. This time the words sounded like thanks. Hana helped the soldier stand up. It was definitely young, probably not much older than 20 in human years. Its armor had symbols that she did not recognize, but they looked like student markings rather than military decorations. The soldier pointed at itself and said a word that sounded like Kethvar. Then it pointed at her with a questioning look. "Hana," she said, pointing at herself. Kethvar repeated her name with a strange accent. Then it looked around at the damaged processor building and the smoking wreckage of its ship. It seemed to be trying to figure out what to do next. Hana made a decision that surprised even her. She pointed toward her building and made a gesture for Kethvar to follow her. The young soldier hesitated for a moment, then nodded. Together, they walked toward the engineering complex. Hana realized she was bringing an enemy soldier into her secret base. It was probably the most dangerous thing she had ever done. But she had fixed its breathing equipment and it had not tried to kill her. Maybe they could find a way to communicate. Maybe she could learn something useful about the enemy. Or maybe she was making the biggest mistake of her life. Kethvar sat in the corner of Hana's control room and watched her work. He had been inside the human building for 6 hours now, and everything about this place amazed him. The machines were so much smaller than Vortani technology, but they seemed to do more work with less energy. Hana had given him a translation device from her emergency supplies. It was basic, but they could understand each other now. The first thing he had learned was that her name meant flower in her language. He thought, that was beautiful. "Why did you help me?" he asked her as she checked the atmospheric processor readings. She looked up from her screens. "You were dying. I could fix your breathing equipment. But I am your enemy. You are young. Maybe the same age as my brother." Kethvar touched the repair work she had done on his helmet. Human engineering was different from what he knew. More creative. The Vortani way would have been to replace the entire unit. She had made the broken parts work together again. "Your brother is a fighter pilot," he said. "I saw him during the battle yesterday. He flies very well." Hana turned around quickly. "How do you know about Tai?" "I was assigned to monitor your defense forces." Red Squadron leader was my primary target. Kethvar saw her face change and realized his mistake. I am sorry. I should not have said that. You were trying to kill my brother. Yes. That was my mission. Hana was quiet for a long time. She went back to her work, but her movements were sharp and angry now. Kethvar wondered if she was going to throw him back outside. I did not want to be here, he said finally. Then why did you come? Because my people have no choice. The Vortani Empire conquered my world 2 years ago. Now all young people must serve in their military. If I had refused, they would have killed my family. Hana stopped typing and looked at him again. Your world was conquered too? Kepler 7. It was a peaceful place. We were farmers and artists. We had no weapons that could fight the Vortani fleet. What happened to your people? Kethvar was quiet for a moment. The memories were still painful. The ones who agreed to serve the Empire were allowed to live. The others were sent to work camps. My younger sister and my parents are in a camp on Vortani Prime. That is horrible. The Vortani believe that all species must be brought into their empire for their own good. They call it universal order. They think they are helping us by conquering us. Hana walked over to where he was sitting. She looked less angry now and more curious. How many species have they conquered? 43 that I know of. Maybe more. Each conquered world must provide soldiers for the next conquest. That is how their empire keeps growing. And you believe that humans needed to be conquered too? Kethvar looked around the control room again. The atmospheric processors were running smoothly under Hana's care. The whole colony had breathed clean air because of her work. I was told that humans were a primitive species, that you could not take care of yourselves properly. What do you think now? I think the Vortani leaders have never seen your engineering. These machines are more advanced than anything on my homeworld. More advanced than most Vortani equipment, too. Hana walked to her communication station and turned on the emergency radio. Static filled the room, mixed with distant voices speaking in different languages. Listen, she said. Kethvar heard what sounded like ships talking to each other. Some of the voices were human, but others were different. One sounded like his own species. What is that? He asked. Other conquered people fighting back. There are rebellions starting in 12 different star systems. The Vortani Empire is not as strong as they want everyone to believe. The radio crackled with a new transmission. This one was in clear human language. New Busan Colony. This is Captain Mira of the rescue fleet. We are still 3 days out. Hold your position if possible. Hana picked up the microphone. Captain Mira, this is Engineer Kim. I am maintaining atmospheric control. Colony is secure for now. Understood, Engineer. Kim, intelligence reports say Vortani are planning to strip mine your world. They want the rare metals for shipbuilding. How long before they start? Unknown. But if they begin mining operations, the atmospheric processors will be destroyed. Hana looked at Kethvar. Is that true? He nodded sadly. Mining ships arrived this morning. I saw them when I was flying patrol. They are waiting for orders from the war commander. How long do we have? Maybe 2 days. Maybe less. Hana turned off the radio and sat down heavily in her chair. Kethvar could see that she was calculating something in her head. Her face was worried. What is wrong? He asked. My oxygen levels are dropping faster than I expected. The building's recycling system was designed for 12 people, not one person and one Vortani. Your breathing equipment uses different gases than mine. How long do we have? Maybe 18 hours, maybe 20 if I reduce the airflow to the non-essential areas. Kethvar stood up quickly. Then I should leave. I am using your air supply. Where would you go? Your ship is destroyed. Your own people think you are dead. I could try to reach the Vortani base camp, tell them I am alive. And then what? They will want to know how you survived. They will want to know who helped you. Kethvar realized she was right. If he returned to his unit, they would question him. They would learn about Hana and the atmospheric processors. They would come to capture her and study her technology. I cannot go. Back, he said. Then we wait together. Kethvar looked at this human woman who had saved his life. She was sharing her air with him even though it meant she might die sooner. No Vortani would ever do such a thing for an enemy. "Why are you not afraid of me?" he asked. "Should I be? I am trained to kill humans. But you have not tried to kill me." "No, I have not." "Then maybe you are not as good at being an enemy as you think you are." Kethvar almost smiled at that. On his homeworld, his family had always said he was too kind to be a good soldier. Maybe they were right. The atmospheric processors hummed quietly in the background. Outside, the Vortani mining ships waited for their orders. And somewhere in space, human ships were racing to save a colony that might not survive long enough to be rescued. But in the control room, two enemies sat together and shared the same air, learning that understanding could grow even in the middle of war. Hana woke up gasping for air. She had fallen asleep at her desk again, but this time something was wrong. The air felt thick and hard to breathe. Her chest hurt with every breath she took. She looked at the oxygen monitor on her control panel. The numbers made her heart race. Her air supply was running dangerously low. Maybe 6 hours left. Maybe less. Kethvar was sitting by the window watching the Vortani ships outside. He turned when he heard her breathing heavily. "You are getting worse," he said. "The recycling system is failing. Too much demand on the filters." Hana tried to stand up but felt dizzy. "I need to check the backup oxygen tanks." She walked slowly to the storage room with Kethvar following behind her. The backup tanks were there, but when she checked the gauges, her heart sank. Only one tank was full. The others were empty or nearly empty. "How much time does that give us?" Kethvar asked. "Maybe 3 hours. 4 at most. Then we must contact your rescue fleet. Tell them to hurry." Hana shook her head. "They are still 2 days away. Even if they pushed their engines to maximum, they could not get here in time." They walked back to the control room. Hana sat down carefully, trying not to waste energy. Every movement was getting harder. Every breath was a struggle. The radio crackled with a new transmission, but this time the voice was speaking in Vortani language. Kethvar listened carefully and then looked worried. "What did they say?" Hana asked. "War Commander Thekmar has arrived. He is ordering all ground units to report their status." Another transmission came through. This time it was directed specifically at Kethvar's unit. "Pilot Kethvar, report your position immediately." Kethvar looked at the radio microphone. His hand moved toward it, then stopped. "They think you are still alive," Hana said. "Yes. I must answer, or they will send search teams. What will you tell them?" Kethvar was quiet for a long moment. "I do not know." The radio crackled again. "Pilot Kethvar, this is War Commander Thekmar. Answer immediately or be declared a deserter." Hana knew what that meant. Deserters in the Kain Vortani military were executed. Their families were punished too. "Answer them," she said. "Save yourself." "If I answer, they will want to know where I am. They will find this place. They will find you. I am going to die anyway. The oxygen will run out in a few hours." "No." Kethvar stood up suddenly. "There must be another way." He walked to the atmospheric processor controls and began studying the displays. Hana watched him work, impressed by how quickly he understood her systems. "These machines are remarkable," he said. "They are processing the entire colony's atmosphere. But what if we reduce the coverage area?" "What do you mean?" "What if we shut down processing for most of the colony and focused all the power on just this building? Would that give us more time?" Hana thought about it. "Maybe. But if I do that, any humans still hiding in the colony will suffocate. Are there any humans still here?" "I do not know. Maybe a few in the deep shelters." The radio crackled again. "All units, be advised. Mining operations will begin in 8 hours. Civilian structure cleanup will commence immediately after." Kethvar translated for Hana. "They are going to start destroying buildings to clear the area for mining, including this one." 8 hours, Hana whispered. She looked at her oxygen monitor again. "I will be dead before then anyway." No, I will not let that happen. Kithvar walked to the storage room and came back carrying the last oxygen tank. He began connecting it to Hana's breathing system. What are you doing? She asked. Giving you more time. That tank is for both of us. My breathing equipment recycles air more efficiently than yours. I can last longer without the extra oxygen. Hana tried to stop him, but she was too weak. The fresh oxygen from the tank made her feel better immediately. Her head cleared and her breathing became easier. Thank you, she said. You saved my life first. The radio transmitted again. This time it was War Commander Thekmar himself. Pilot Kethvar, you have 10 minutes to report your status. After that, I will assume you are dead and inform your family. Kethvar closed his eyes. Hana knew he was thinking about his sister and parents in the work camp. If he was declared dead, they would lose their protected status. They might be executed too. Answer them, she said. I cannot. Why not? Because if I contact them, they will order me to return to base. They will want a full report on what I have seen here. They will learn about your atmospheric processors and your engineering skills. So, they will capture you alive. They will force you to build processors for them on other worlds. You will become a slave engineer, helping them terraform planets for conquest. Hana had not thought of that. It would be worse than death. Her knowledge would be used to destroy more human colonies. But if you do not answer, your family will die. Yes. They sat in silence for several minutes. The radio continued to crackle with Vortani transmissions. Mining ships were moving into position. Ground troops were preparing to destroy the colony buildings. Finally, Kethvar picked up the microphone. He looked at Hana with sad yellow eyes. I am sorry, he said. For what? Instead of answering the war commander, Kethvar switched to a different frequency. He began transmitting coordinates and tactical information in human language. This is Pilot Kethvar of the Vortani Invasion Force. I am transmitting Vortani ship positions and tactical weaknesses to any human forces in range. Hana stared at him in shock. What are you doing? Choosing my side. He continued transmitting everything he knew about Vortani military tactics, ship locations, and planned operations. He gave the human rescue fleet information that could help them win the battle. When he finished, he put down the microphone and looked at Hana. Now they will definitely execute my family. Kethvar, why did you do that? Because you gave me your oxygen when you could have let me die. Because you showed me that enemies can choose to be friends. Because I do not want to serve an empire that destroys beautiful things. The war commander's voice came through the radio, angry and threatening. Pilot Kethvar, you are now declared a traitor to the empire. Surrender immediately or face total war. Kethvar reached over and turned off the radio. Now we wait together, he said. Outside, Hana could see Vortani ships changing their formations. The information Kethvar had transmitted was already being used. The human rescue fleet would have a much better chance now, but inside the control room, her oxygen was almost gone, and they both knew that rescue might come too late. Hana could barely keep her eyes open. The oxygen tank was empty now, and every breath felt like lifting a heavy weight. She watched the numbers on her control panel blur together as her vision started to fail. Kethvar was working frantically at the atmospheric processor controls, trying to squeeze every bit of breathable air from the failing systems. But even his more efficient breathing equipment was struggling now. The human fleet, she whispered. How close are they? Kethvar checked the tactical display. 6 hours away. Maybe 5 if they received my transmission and pushed their engines harder. Hana laughed weakly. We do not have 5 hours. Through the window, they could see Vortani ground troops surrounding their building. War Commander Thekmar had sent an entire battalion to capture or kill the traitor pilot. They were setting up heavy weapons and preparing to break through the blast doors. I am sorry, Kethvar said. I failed to save you. No. Hana reached for her emergency oxygen mask, the last one in the building. You saved something more important than my life. She handed him the mask. He stared at it in shock. I cannot take this. It is your last oxygen. Listen to me. Hana's voice was getting weaker, but her eyes were still fierce. You have to survive. You have to tell the human fleet everything you know about Vortani tactics. You have to help them win this war. Hana, please. You know how to operate the atmospheric processors now. If the rescue fleet gets here, you can keep the systems running until they bring proper technicians. Kethvar held the oxygen mask, but did not put it on. Your people will never trust me. I am still the enemy. You stopped being the enemy when you chose to help us instead of helping them. The building shook as Vortani weapons hit the blast doors. Sparks flew from the control panels. The lights flickered and went dim. They are breaking through, Kethvar said. Hana used her last strength to reach the main control panel. She entered. A series of commands that would lock out all external access to the atmospheric processors. Only someone with her personal codes could restart them. What are you doing? Making sure the Vortani cannot use my machines even if they capture them. She finished entering the codes and then collapsed in her chair. Her breathing was so shallow now that Kethvar could barely see her chest moving. Take the mask, she whispered. No. That is an order. From one engineer to another. Kethvar finally put on the oxygen mask. The fresh air cleared his head immediately. He could think more clearly now, but thinking clearly only made him feel worse about what was happening. The blast doors exploded inward. Vortani soldiers poured into the control room with their weapons ready. War Commander Thekmar walked in behind them, his armor gleaming and his face full of rage. Pilot Kethvar, Thekmar said in their language. You have betrayed everything the Empire stands for. I have chosen to serve a better cause, Kethvar replied. And this human encouraged your treason? Kethvar looked at Hana, who was unconscious now but still breathing faintly. She showed me what mercy looks like. Thekmar walked to the atmospheric processor controls and studied the displays. Remarkable technology. Our scientists will learn much from these machines. The systems are locked. You cannot access them without the engineer's codes. Then we will wake her up and force her to give us the codes. She is dying. She gave her oxygen to keep me alive. Thekmar stared at Kethvar in disbelief. She gave her life force to an enemy? That is impossible. No species is that foolish. That is what makes humans dangerous to your empire. They do impossible things. Before Thekmar could respond, explosions echoed from outside the building. The war commander spoke into his communication device and received rapid reports from his troops. Human warships have arrived, he announced. They are attacking our fleet with perfect knowledge of our ship positions and tactical weaknesses. Because I gave them that information, Kethvar said proudly. Your treachery will cost the Empire this battle, but it will not save this world. We will return with a larger fleet. More explosions shook the building. Through the windows, they could see human fighters engaging Vortani ships in the sky above the colony. The tactical information Kethvar had provided was working. The human pilots knew exactly where to strike. Thekmar ordered his soldiers to prepare for evacuation. The Vortani fleet was losing the battle and would have to retreat. But before they left, he wanted to destroy the atmospheric processors so humans could not use them. Set explosive charges on all the machinery, he commanded. Kethvar stepped between the soldiers and the control panels. I will not let you destroy her work. You cannot stop us, traitor. Maybe not. But I can make sure you do not have time to finish. Kethvar activated an emergency alarm that sent signals to every human ship in the area. He broadcast their exact location and the fact that War Commander Thekmar was inside the building. Within minutes, human soldiers were breaking down. What remained of the blast doors? The rescue team was led by Captain Mira, who had medical equipment and emergency oxygen supplies. The Vortani soldiers fought briefly, but were outnumbered. War Commander Thekmar escaped in the confusion, but his plan to destroy the processors had failed. Dr. Choi, the colony's chief medical officer, rushed to Hana's side with portable life support equipment. She worked quickly to stabilize Hana's breathing while Kethvar explained what had happened. She shared her oxygen with you? Dr. Choi asked in amazement. She saved my life. Then she gave me her last oxygen so I could survive to help you. That is the most human thing I have ever heard. Over the next several hours, more human ships arrived to secure the colony. The atmospheric processors were restarted successfully with Hana's codes, which she provided as soon as she regained consciousness. Kethvar helped coordinate the evacuation of remaining civilians and provided intelligence about other Vortani military operations. His information led to successful human counterattacks on 3 other invaded colonies. When Hana was strong enough to speak clearly, she found Kethvar working at the atmospheric processor controls, learning how to maintain the delicate balance of gases that kept the colony's air breathable. "You stayed," she said. "Where else would I go? The Vortani Empire considers me a traitor. My own people would execute me if they found me." "What about your family?" Kethvar was quiet for a moment. "Captain Mira told me that human intelligence rescued them during the attack on the Vortani command base. They are safe now on a human colony world." Hana smiled. "Then you can start a new life. I want to learn more about atmospheric engineering. I want to help build worlds instead of destroying them. I would like that very much." 3 months. Later, Hana and Kethvar were working together to design improved atmospheric processors for newly discovered worlds. Their partnership had become a symbol of cooperation between species that had once been enemies. The simple act of sharing oxygen with an enemy had started a cascade of events that freed dozens of worlds from Vortani control. Other conquered species had heard the story and begun their own rebellions, and in her engineering laboratory on New Busan Colony, Hana Kim looked up at the clear blue sky and knew that sometimes the smallest acts of mercy could change the entire galaxy.